Hey now, and welcome. Episode 9 of the Booker Corrigan Show. We got a great show today. First and foremost, surgery on the finger. I took some of the bandage off because my girl Tanya kept laughing at how big and, you leave surgery and they're worried about infection. Couple stitches, they removed the growth. They're going to send it to the lab. I'll let you know how it goes. I'm confident. Today's show, we got Hey Bubba, brought to you by the Under Armour All-American Tryout for the underclassmen. We're going to do our game picks. Then we're going to get into the lesson, talk about some early season losses and how you can use them to build. Then our debate, the 5 best attackmen in the sport of lacrosse. Then we are going to shake Bubba, and we're going to bring on a new first-time guest of the Booker Corrigan Show, and it is Pat McCabe, a phenomenal coach for the Adelphi women's program. And he also happened to be Defenseman of the Year in his college playing days and a 3-time first-team All-American. So that'll be great. Looking forward to the picks with Bubba. He did a little bit better last weekend. Let's see if he can't really improve as this week comes around.
Buck, my man.
Hey, Bubba! How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
While you weren't on the air, I was praising the fact that you had a little bit better week in your picks last week. And I think that, I'm optimistic that you're starting to figure out this whole college lacrosse thing, and I'm proud of you.
A little bit better. That's a tremendous jump, Booker.
That is a tremendous jump. It is. And I know everybody, I had surgery on my finger. I want everybody to keep the cards and letters coming. The guys down at the precinct have been cooking meals just to make sure that I'm okay. So we got that going for us. Let's get right into our picks, Bubba, because I'm going to go probably 6-0 this week. We got 2 Sunday games, but the first game on my list is UNC at Johns Hopkins. Who do you like in that one, my friend?
I don't really like either team, but I am going to go with Carolina.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go with the Heels coming on up. I think Hopkins, I believe Epstein's probably out again. I think without him playing, that's a big hit on that offense. So I wouldn't be shocked if Petro was able to pull those guys together and have them get a win. But I will go Carolina.
I like the way you're thinking. I was fortunate enough to be in the press box at Loyola. Those folks over in the sports information office at Loyola are phenomenal. They got me in the press box to watch Hopkins against the Greyhounds. And one of the things I noticed, and the first thing you talked about, was the absence of Joey Epstein. He played about a quarter and a half, never really looked all that right. So I don't know what his status will be. I know that Petro likes to play it very close to the vest as far as injury reports, so that's cool. But I'm still going with Hopkins because my man Bobby Benson, the offensive coach, can coach him up. My man Billy Dwan, the defensive coach, can coach him up. So it'll be a nice week for Hopkins to prove that they still belong in the championship weekend picture.
No doubt. Gotta love the Dwans. BD
Yeah.
is one of my all-time favorites.
Yep. They are great people. And I will remind BD that you picked against them, but that's beside the point. Hey, let's get to a game that's now all of a sudden near and dear to your heart. I think we had Yale at Penn State, number 1 against number 3. Who do you like, my friend?
Gotta go with Yale.
Oh, yeah.
Have to go with Yale. I mean, should be a heck of a game. I mean, there's some serious offensive power on both teams. I think Penn State, their offense has been lighting it up, and generally they do. And I think they probably will put some goals on the board. But
yep.
I think with TD winning the faceoffs, and Yale gets a pretty, if they can get a sizable advantage on number of possessions, their offense is. I was able to watch it against Villanova. I mean, they got some talent on offense. There's no doubt.
I'll tell you what, Jackson Morrill has impressed me since his sophomore year at McDonough. Then you have Matt Brandow, who I think is just a phenomenal young man. He and his twin brother, Chris, who's the goalie for the Terps. Just a nice family. And then you got Gaudette. But I'm going with Penn State. I just think that they have so much offense. One of the things that you neglected to mention as we had Brian Bubba Burlace on the phone with us is you have an offensive weapon up there at Yale in BJ. The kid knows how to score goals, even though he plays long stick. How's he doing?
He's doing good. He loves it. He's having a great experience. Enjoys his teammates. Team's very close, and working hard. It's his first spring in playing college lacrosse, so I think he's trying to figure out how to manage school and practices, and working hard and managing his time. But yeah, so far so good. They're 1-0, so he's happy.
Yep, nothing wrong with winning beats losing, as we like to say.
Yes.
Our next game is UPenn at Duke. I'm taking UPenn. I feel like they are starving right now after missing out on the chance to take down Maryland. But I think Duke's a formidable opponent. You taking Duke? You can go with UPenn.
I'm going with Duke. I think I went with Duke. They got me the W last week out in Denver, so I think Penn's traveling down there. Penn. I mean, that loss could go either way for a game or two. That loss to Maryland was a serious kick in the nuts. So I think they're either coming out riled up and ready, or they're really questioning themselves for a little bit. But they got a ton of talent. They got a good kid at the faceoff X and a lot of offense. But Coach Stanowski's he's one of the best out there. So I'll go with him.
And it's interesting that you said that loss could be a potential kick in the butt, but because the lesson today, we're going to talk once we finish our picks about the concept of early season losses. But we will get to that when we can. Next game on the docket, selfishly, I got to pick, make sure that we cover the Robert Morris Jacksonville game. I'm going with Jacksonville. I'm going down next weekend to do the Jacksonville-Utah game as part of the Moe's Classic. I'm thrilled to have a chance to get down there. And it's a great environment. And I'm taking Jacksonville to I don't know if it would be an upset, but Robert Morris has proven in the last couple of years that they belong in the NCAA tournament and they can make some noise when they get there. But give me the Dolphins. You taking Robert Morris?
Yeah, I'll go Robert Morris. I think getting back to these guys are going to be pretty happy to get down some warm weather. They can light up the scoreboard. So I haven't had a chance to really see them, but if you're going Jacksonville, I'll go the other route.
I like your style. I dig your style. Now we get on Sunday, Richmond at Notre Dame. Don't know what the weather is going to be like. Obviously, last name Corrigan. I'm going Irish, and you can take whoever you like, but I know you want the Spiders.
Going Spiders. They had played Maryland really tight. Had a good win against Navy. I think they're a very well coached team. They got some talent. I think they're going to knock Notre Dame off.
And
Notre Dame's trying to figure. I think they might have to figure some stuff out. It's got some new coordinators this year. So yeah, let's go. Let's go Spiders.
Yeah, I'd love to see. I noticed that the spread, in the one Twitter handle that does spreads on games, they put Notre Dame as a 4-goal favorite, which I think is way too many. But I certainly hope they come out as a 1-goal winner or more. Last game.
Are they going to play in that weird little bubble thing?
Yeah, the Loftus Center.
That's a couple goal advantage right there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So that'll be interesting. And then the last game, I think, I understand Yale Penn State is 2 of the top 3 teams getting after it. But Army at Syracuse, Army was the flavor of the month, and all of a sudden Marist decided that they weren't. And Syracuse has been playing very, very well. I think Army's going to come out there and find a way to 9-8 them and win the game 9-8 somehow, some way. Joe Albarisi, Justin Ward, great coaches, great people. It'll be interesting to see how strong and a combined collective anger Army can build from the loss that they just encountered.
Yeah, I think Army, they're a talented team and well coached, but I think the Red Foxes exposed some weaknesses, and if you look at the way Marist was able to put up goals and get great possessions against Army, you look at the talent on Syracuse. I think they're gonna light up the scoreboard.
They do, and they got some hosses too. I mean, they got some big, strong kids. I mean, not that Army's ever gonna fade in the fourth quarter, but Syracuse certainly does have some talent. Brendan Curry, a kid from around here at Calvert Hall, his dad Todd Curry, his mom Erin. I mean, lacrosse is a small enough world where we're all close. and he is a phenomenal kid. So it'll be good to see him
Great
get
kid.
some time.
Yeah.
Maybe Basil Aburn gets some moments up there and does some big things. So we got our picks. And I do want to once again remind you this time next week, I'll be gearing up to go down to Jacksonville, Florida to get nice and warm, work on my tan a little bit, and do the Utah-Jacksonville game. That's on CBS Sports. It should be fun. Next on the docket is the movie this week, Austin Powers. What's some of the things that there's 4 of them. I felt like Goldmember, the last one, was probably the funniest, but the first one really set the tone for let's go be silly. Let's go, let's go have some fun. That's what it's supposed to be. What did you like the most about the Austin Powers series?
I think the first one, I mean, they all had their, each movie had some pretty memorable and funny parts. I think, sometimes I feel like I'm in a time machine, a time warp. Like I start talking about things and acting like it's 1995, and the kids are looking at me like, "What are you talking about? That was 30 years ago." So me and Austin have that in common sometimes, and Mini Me. Who doesn't love Mini Me? I mean, of course, I always had, little friends, and they were just mini me. I'd carry them around and pat them on the head and, put them in my belly,
Was one of them named Blake Weinheim?
The Wizard.
The Wizard.
Get in my belly.
Yeah, well, John Brothers.
Little monkey, yeah.
John Brothers. Now, let me ask this. Did you ever spend the summers in Rangoon, and have you ever taken luge lessons?
I only could wish I could. I think, I was just kind of fixated on, finding my own Felicity Shagwell.
Oh, God. Heather Graham.
With her?
Yeah, Shagwell by name, Shag very well by reputation. She was tremendous. I love the other one. I caught my kids the other day. They were on the phone, and they didn't know I was listening. And at one point they said, yeah, my dad makes outrageous claims. Like he invented the question mark, which I actually have never said. And I don't even call it a question mark dodge. I call it an outside roll because you had to defend the inside roll. I like to call it, instead of the question mark dodge, I call it an outside roll because you're just rolling to the outside. How am I getting away with that, or am I pushing the envelope too much?
Yeah, we'll give you that.
Okay.
We do know that Austin invented quotation, finger quotes. You do know that.
Yes, I do.
Don't try to steal that from him.
Love the air quotes. Let's get to the lesson this week, Bubba. Early season losses. You even alluded to it in your pick about Penn over Duke because, Penn had it and they ended up losing. What is, as a coach, what is your mindset when you lose a game in the early season, and how deeply does it affect you, or does it inspire you to make the right changes?
Yeah, I think in a lot of cases, they can be pivotal games where how the kids and the coaches react. You're going one way or another. You never want to lose a game, but if you do lose one, and you are exposed in some of your weaknesses, it can allow you to get better and improve on things, and sometimes it knocks the kids back down to earth, where they realize they're not invincible, or maybe they do need to take the extra time in shooting or stick work, after practice. But yeah, I mean, it's as a coach, it can test you. Like you go out and you lose an early game. I think last season at St. Mary's we lost 2 early season games. I think our first 2 games we started off 0-2, and you sit back and you're trying to figure out, do we have to change anything? And we as a group decided no. We are who we are. We just need to improve and get better at what we do. We don't need to recreate the whole system. So I think if you have your core values and your structure in place, you can withstand it. But when you start trying to, you freak out a little bit too much when you do lose that game, and you're moving kids around and changing, formations and styles. Then you can turn into a long season of second guessing yourself.
That's a great point from Brian Burlace, who's joining us today in the segment we like to call Hey Bubba, brought to you by the Under Armour Underclass Tryout, the best of its kind. Bubba, when teams lose that game, I almost am thankful that they didn't squeak it out. Because if you're down 10-6 with 4 minutes to go, you need to have these kids take home the full measure of the lesson. And if you play a cruddy game, but you end up squeaking it out at the end, it can help you a little bit, but I think you're going to, especially in the early season, you look at Duke as a perfect example, they find a way to build from those moments, and it helps them become, a championship team that's very core valued and very gathered, us against the world now that we've taken home the loss. Every coach on the planet wants to go undefeated, but if you don't have the ability to go undefeated, you want to be able to learn from each loss and move forward from there. Now you have the kids, they've taken home the full measure of the lesson, and your team's ready to become the best possible version of itself. Let's get to some attackmen. I'm going to give you my list. We went top 5. I only included 11 guys on my top 5 because that's... You know how I am. I'm more inclusive than exclusive. Yeah, exact. I was going to go with 17. First and foremost, Eamon McEnany from the great Cornell teams. His college career, the record stands by itself. Unbelievable player, and he was undefendable at times. He played on the hardcore AstroTurf, and they really, it suited his game very well, and the guy rocked Chuck Taylor's. So you got to love Eamon McEnany. Then Mikey Powell, 4-time first-team All-American, 4-time Tewaaraton winner. Not bad. Patrick Spencer is number 3, and number 3A is Mark Millen. Different type players, but stars in their own right. And Millie, obviously the Patrick Spencer story has yet to write the final chapters. Mark Millen went on to play for Team USA and the pro leagues at a very high level. Number 4 and 4A got Tommy Marichek and Bill Miller, 2 guys who accomplished a great deal in college and then again played for their respective national teams a number of times. And then number 5, Bubba, I got Massey, Hess, and Hubbard. That Princeton group was phenomenal. Tell me about some of your guys.
Three-headed monster there. Yeah, that was a good group. Hard to argue with your picks, but I'm going to go a little bit different. I think Mikey Powell's probably on everyone's list. He's on mine. 4-time first-team All-American. I'll tell you what, I caught some of that Princeton game the other night, and that Sowers attack, that's about the quickest kid I've seen since Powell. He's fun to watch. But for that top 5 list, I'd have Brian Wood on there.
Love it.
Good St. Mary's guy. Woody was something else to watch at Hopkins. I got a couple of younger guys. Lyle Thompson. I think watching him play, what he's done both collegiately and in the pro leagues, has been unbelievable. John Grant Jr.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Jethro Jr. up there. I mean, he's still doing it. He's not sure how old he is, but 40, 41, somewhere around there.
I think he's our age.
I mean, that guy is just awesome. At every, different, in between professional, college, international, indoor, just something else. What do I got? One left?
He has as many as you like.
I'm gonna go with Rambo.
I love it.
I gotta get a Terp on that list. You look at, obviously the body of work shorter than some of those older guys, but he was the best player, in high school. I think he was the top recruit coming out of high school. He won the Tewaaraton in college. He won the MVP of the pro league last year. So, every level that kid's been at, he's won a championship. He's dominated. He's been the best player. So, those are the guys I go with. I think Zilberti was kind of my outlier, the Z-Man.
I played with the Z. Yeah.
And Z's, everyone want you to have Z around afterwards is always fun too.
So, allow me to comment on some of those. The Massey, Hess, Hubbard, love them. Brian Wood, he was the first guy that I ever saw play the sport at a full sprint, and I thought that was remarkable. A couple names that I think we deserve honorable mention. Notice Timmy and Dennis Goldstein, love them. Mike O'Neill is a guy, the old Hopkins guy, number 7. He was one of those guys that halfway through the first quarter, he'd be the dirtiest guy on, like his uniform was covered in mud. He already had 6 ground balls, 2 goals, and 2 assists, and the game hadn't really even started yet. but he was somebody I always looked at as a young kid. Joe Walters, I thought was pretty good in his day and could sling it big time. And then my outlier, I know last week I went with Dennis Rodman as a defender, which I still think might be the greatest selection I've ever made. I started with Steph Curry, and I'm thinking to myself, Steph Curry as a attackman with his ability to move sideways and his ability to see things. Him goofing around with the stick with the
run!
which is awesome, but I had to cut him from my team. And he didn't put me on his all-time best basketball player list, so I don't feel bad about cutting him. I will tell you.
I don't know how much contact he would like.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why you support me 1,000,000%. Christian McCaffrey is my outrageous pick. Christian McCaffrey, the running back for the Panthers, would be an insane attackman. He would be so good at everything and unstoppable. Like when he got the ball in the corner of the field, the further you went out to guard him, the further from the goal you're getting dusted, in my opinion. So Christian McCaffrey, I think, would be a stud if he had chosen to play.
You think he could run by you? He could run over you?
Yeah.
He could, I agree. He'd be pretty good. What about like Shaq or something?
I don't know if Shaq makes that.
Can you imagine, how do you stop Shaq's ass dodge?
Yeah, I tell you what. Well, he certainly could have. He had the chance. His voice is so funny to me. Shaq, man. And God bless him. He said so many nice things since Kobe passed away, which we're all sorry. They had that little rivalry for a moment in time, but we obviously came to find out that they loved each other as much as you can. Bubba, that does us this week, my man. Did we lose you?
I'm here. I think I lost. I did lose you for a second there.
Okay, yeah, that does us.
I thought you were just done with me and cut me off.
Yeah, I would never cut you off without telling you I love you. Yeah, we always got to, exchange some pleasantries. But that does us for this week, my friend.
All right, Booker.
You got it.
I'll talk to you next week, buddy.
Yep.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Good luck with your picks.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'll need a little bit.
Yeah, go Yale.
See you, buddy.
See you, brother. Now we got a treat for you. I got my man, Pat McCabe. And I told you at the beginning of the show we were going to get him on here. And here we go. The magic of technology. And we're going to hear his 5 best attackmen. Plus, we might get a crazy one out of him. Sometimes I feel like Regis Philbin on the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Hello, sir.
Hey, Coach McCabe, Booker Corrigan, you're on the Booker Corrigan Show. We just hung up with Brian Burlace in our segment we call Hey Bubba.
Bubba?
Yeah, and I know, are you down in Florida right now, my man?
I'm in Lakeland, Florida. I'm getting ready to play Florida Southern, the Mocs, tonight at 7.
And you know what the terrible news in the world is right now? I am headed down to Sarasota tomorrow night to see my gal Tanya. If we could have collaborated and made it happen, I could be on the mic doing a moccasins against the Adelphi team tonight.
Oh, we'd love to have you.
I know.
That'd be great.
I know. Think of how many people in Elmont would tune in for that one.
Oh, we'd get a few on there for sure.
Yeah,
we call listening parties for you.
A listening party. We're on with Pat.
Don't even need a viewing party, just a listening party.
Yeah, we're on with Pat McCabe. He's the head coach at Adelphi Women's Lacrosse. Also happened to be a 3-time first-team All-American for Syracuse. Back in the day when Syracuse would just let you play some defense. Pat, we just hung up with Brian Burlace, and we were talking about our top 5 attackmen ever. Who do you have on your list that stands out as somebody that deserves that notoriety?
Well, you have to put. It's hard. Casey Powell is obviously on everyone's list, and he makes it interesting because he played some midfield too, and he did a lot of stuff on the pro league where he's just so versatile. But he's just a dynamic player on the attack. How do you leave off his 2 brothers? That's where this gets almost impossible. You got Mark Millen in the conversation.
Yep.
I put, there's 3 guys I put in a very similar category in Ryan Boyle, Tim Goldstein, and Darren Lowe.
Okay.
Three guys who, clearly quarterbacks, demanding of teammates, put people in the right place. Great orchestrators and figuring out how to raise the level of everyone around them.
Love Timmy G.
I have a sentimental piece with Matt Panetta because I think he's a guy. Had he been healthy his whole college career, and really what he did his sophomore year in '89, if he had been healthy for 4 years, you would have seen ridiculous numbers.
And Matt Panetta, quick sidebar, Elmont, right?
Yeah, so we were. I credit a lot of my success with the fact that I played against him every day in high school. So I had the greatest competition. I was never going to cover a better guy on game day than I saw every day in practice.
That's pretty legit. That's high praise from a guy who was a 3-time first-team All-American.
He's the best. I played against him every day, Booker, and he brought out the best in me, and I hope I did the same for him. We're still friends to this day. We laugh about a lot of the stuff we did.
I bet. With Timmy Sheen, I'm sure Timmy Sheen gets a little laugh in there too.
Oh, he's a sentimental guy, so he loves the fact that we still care so much about it. But I go to cover Matt Panetta in the '89 championship game. He's like hiding the stick from me away from the ball, and I'm like walking over, ball's in the other end of the field, looking at him. He's using my stick.
In the championship game against you.
Yeah, I'm like, it's my stick. No, it's not.
Yeah.
He was using my stick in the game.
Yeah, love it. Why wouldn't he? Now,
there's so many guys out there. Booker 5 is really tough for me. But that's a fair list that I just gave.
How about your man Billy Miller? Hardest guy to guard, perhaps?
Just impossible athletically. And then he had these long arms and these loose wrists that even when you got his stick, he was able, because he was strong, he was deceivingly strong, he'd be able to manage the pressure you put on him and kind of go with it and then work his wrists to get himself free and the ball wouldn't come out.
Yeah.
He was like a Spider-Man kind of guy.
Love it. And your man Tommy Marichek, you had some practices. I just hung up with Tommy a while ago. He said Pat McCabe's one of my all-time favorite teammates. And Tommy played on a lot of teams. I mean, he kept it going for a long time after college ended.
Well, we laughed a lot. But we had a lot of fun in those days. And, Simmy made it a very relaxed atmosphere. So we laughed a lot. We joked around.
To say the least.
We played a lot of golf and a lot of tennis and a lot of, like hallway lacrosse with tennis balls, when it was snowing outside. We just had a lot of good times, and I love Tommy as a teammate. And if you're going to give me one guy alone with the goalie to win the game, and I'm picking Tommy Marichek, every day of the week.
Yeah. Yeah, he could finish. He could definitely do the mint fake and finish.
Oh, he was mint along with the goalie.
Yeah, he was mint.
An all-time great obnoxious celebrator.
Ah! Was he?
Oh, yeah. He was the beauty of it was he did it when anyone else scored. So when someone else scored and he was on the doorstep, arms straight up, right hand pumping up and down, right in the goalie's face.
Yes.
Celebrate right on the doorstep.
I do recall him doing that a couple times. Timmy and Dennis Goldstein, unbelievable. The Lowe brothers, the Nelson brothers. How have we not discussed them yet?
I cheated a little bit on this text you gave me. I texted John DiTomaso earlier and I said, give me your list, and he came with the Nelsons right away. Think about how many brother pairings you have. Dennis and Timmy, Darren and Kevin Lowe.
Yep.
You got the Nelsons. There's a lot of family situations here.
It's so cool. And then the family that really was, they're one entry on my list, but Massey, Hess, and Hubbard, what they did at Princeton was just, I don't know that individually, and I know Jesse Hubbard had a great pro career and hit a lot of milestones there, but those three guys intersecting at that time at Princeton, I mean, they won it in 96, 97, and 98, and they kind of won it going away. The one year they went to OT with Virginia, other than that they were they had the 19-goal rule. I mean, those three guys complemented each other very, very, very well. Kind of like Zolberti, Marichek, and Burns.
Yeah, I just don't know that you'll ever find again a group of three. You had Watson, Whiteley, and
Dougie Knight.
Doug Knight. Those three were dynamic and so different in each way, each guy. But I don't know that you're going to find three like you
that trio at Princeton. And I played against those guys a lot later on, and they were all great on their own as well. So, Jesse was great, and the numbers he put up. Chris Massey might have been one of my all-time favorite teammates. He's just a fun guy, such a bright guy, fun, and just all three of those guys I've had the pleasure of really getting to know over the years because I never played against them in college. I like those guys a lot, and they were phenomenal to watch.
Now, the other one is, and I just told Bubba Burlace in his Hey Bubba segment that I put Christian McCaffrey, the running back for the Carolina Panthers, on my all-time team, just as kind of an outlier. The week before, I put Dennis Rodman down as a potentially great defenseman in the sport of lacrosse, which I'm 1,000,000% sure that he could do. You got any other sport athletes who you think could play attack at the D1 level if they dedicated themselves to it?
Let's give Allen Iverson a stick right now and see how it goes.
Talk about moves.
Think about it.
Talk about moves that would make your pupils dilate. I mean, that would be scary. That's a great call by you. Great call.
The guy was playing. He was undersized. He was, beat up. He played so hard all the time. There are people who didn't like Allen Iverson, but you had to really respect how hard he played. He cared about every minute of every game.
Yep, and it's interesting that you brought him up because Rick Riley did a great a little write-up on Allen Iverson. I can't remember the title of it, but it is. If you Google that, listeners, please do put it in the comments section if you remember the title. Now, Coach, tell me about your team and how your team's doing and how you guys are coming together down in Florida.
Well, we played one already. We played at Malloy College. It was a neighbor on Long Island. We came out with a 17-7 win. Played a really nice first half in that game, and second half we were kind of sluggish. But we've got a really strong returning group. I've got a terrific group of offensive and defensive players. We're strong in the goal. And this is like the feeling out time of year. Like, who are you? What do you have? What's your personality? What are we going to be? What's our identity going to be? So the early part of the season I kind of use as an opportunity for me to figure things out and put some stuff in, and we just kind of let them play through probably the first month of the season. And then we start to see what we can dial in and what our strengths and weaknesses are. We try to use a month as probably a sampling size for that, so we really don't know yet.
That's a great way. It sounds a little bit like a Roy Simmons Jr. Find out what you have and then find out what you can run for whom can excel at doing it.
Yeah, I know I found, Booker, that you got to put things in throughout the year, but it doesn't mean you have to use them on game day. And we're preparing hopefully for important games, and we have, in most cases, we have a few additional questions for the opponent when it gets tight in the big ones. We were able to win a big one at Lemoyne last year with a play that we drew up, in the months before we played that game, and we needed one in overtime, and we called a timeout, and we put it in, and, we win the game on that, and the rest, as they say, is history. But you got to prepare every day for the unknown, and hope, in some cases you never have to use it. We put things in that were pretty intricate and we never used them, but most of the time we have something waiting if the opportunity arises.
And you're hearing from Coach Pat McCabe, who has a couple national championships under his belt, so he certainly, as a coach and as a player. Last question for you, Pat. Where's the trophy from 1990?
I wish I knew, and at the same time, I'm glad I don't.
And if you did know, you wouldn't be telling me now.
One thing I'll never do is betray Roy Simmons Jr., my friend. I love you, but he's my guy, and I'm with him till the day I depart.
Nor would I. Just wanted to hear you have to answer that question because I know. Even if you were even if it was in your left hand right now, you'd still be like, haven't seen it. Don't know.
I'd say the old expression, I'd tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Exactly. It's beauty. It's beauty. Great to hear from one of Elmont's finest. You talked to Dito today, too, to get some help on the list. I like that.
Just via text. I don't want to let you down, so I needed to get. I got a little Mike. I got a little Mike O'Neal. I got a little bit of a. Who else? Burnett was another name.
Oh, the mole. Love Mike Burnett.
And he's just a little bit before me, John. So he's got names that I know but never played against, so I can't really give a great reference. But he knows what he's talking about. Mac Ford was also on that list.
Oh, yeah. And Mike Caravana from UVA. Yeah. Mikey C could play. 4-time All-American.
And Sewanaka High School. Elmont native.
Yeah, he's Sewanaka,
yeah.
I believe. Yeah, he used to always joke that his dad watched him play a high school game one time as a junior, and he had 4 goals. And he walked up to his dad after the game. He was like, "Wow, Dad, I had 4 goals. Are pretty good." He said, "Yeah, you had a handful, but you could have had a hatful because you missed about 7." And he's like, "Dad, come on."
That's something Mr. Sombrado would have done to Vinny or Steven. He would have said, "You had how many goals do you have today?" "I had 3." "Yeah, but you missed like 4 ground balls."
Yeah, exactly. And your uniform's nowhere near as dirty as Mike O'Neill's. No, that guy. I don't know if Dito filled you in, but that guy was a grinder. He fought for ground balls like a face-off guy, and he was one of the best attackmen in the country.
We have some of the greatest conversations about guys and people that I don't know, but I know the names. And then the guys that when I was playing and he was coaching me, the guys we played against. And it's just his insight on stuff like that is just fascinating.
Yep. And Eamon McEnany, who he probably had to guard a couple times in the old Cornell teams. Eamon was a saint. He was the one who, unfortunately, we lost him tragically on September 11th. But Eamon could ball.
And it's unfair that I left him off the list because it goes without saying even that he's one of the greatest of all time.
Yep. He certainly was. Pat, that brings us to a close, my man. I love you. I'm glad you came on, and I'm looking forward to doing this again. And I want you to know you made my list ahead of Dennis Rodman for top 5 defensemen.
You're the best, man. Love you, brother, and thanks so much for having me.
You got it. We'll do it again.
Be well, buddy. Take care.
Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
What a great man. Pat McCabe doing whatever he can to help out with the show. Next week, as I said, I'll be gearing up for my trip down to Jacksonville, so make sure you put that on your viewing list for next weekend. Utah, Jacksonville. I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. Moe's does a great job. Moe's Southwest Grill, they're the ones who put it on, and they've always been very, very first class in the way they do that entire event. So make sure that's on your viewing list. That's it for this week. I'm Booker Corrigan reminding you, you only get one shot at today.